Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story where a father's approach to fairness leads to family tension. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I don't give my son the same opportunity because of his choice. My wife regularly uses Reddit and recommended me to post on here because our family's split on who's in the wrong. I, 56-year-old male, have 4 kids together with my wife, 54-year-old female. We have 3 daughters, Chloe, 32-year-old female, Wendella, 30-year-old female, and Emily, 24-year-old female. We also have 1 son, Lucas, 26-year-old male. Me and my wife have, since the birth of each of our kids, put in monthly payments in a college fund for them. The amount in the funds was enough to cover for all 4 kids' college education. Our kids all chose different paths in life, whether it was their degree, place of education, or what type of school, they all went with something different. When our oldest, Chloe, graduated high school, she talked to us about how she was unsure what she wanted to do with her life and had been thinking about taking a gap year. We talked with her and told her it was her choice, that if that's what she wanted, she should do it and not rush into education. She did take 2 years. During these years, she worked and, in an agreement with me and my wife, paid us $250 in rent each month to continue living with us. She still ate our food, we cooked for her, and still bought her necessities. The $250 were put in a savings account that we gave her access to when she and her now husband were beginning to talk about buying a house. Even though the situation was not the same with each kid, they all knew about this and the plan for how the money would be used. Wendella lived with us for 3 years after college. Emily lived with us during college. They both took part in this. The issues with my son. He, like his oldest sister, wanted to take a gap year. We encouraged him to do so. He asked if he could stay with us. We told him yes, but told him about the rent situation. He was not happy with this, saying that he was our son and we should want him to live with us for how long he would need to. We explained what the money would be used for. He said he did not give a crap. He was very angry with us for a long time and ended up staying with a friend of his. This all happened around 8 years ago. We have a good relationship now with both him and his wife, whom are expecting our first grandchild. He recently brought up how all his sisters got money to buy a house, showed me pics of a house that he and his wife had been looking at. I said it looked nice, to which he responded with asking when I could give him the money. I told him that he made a choice when he was 18 and that he would not receive any money. He said that it was unfair and that he was young and dumb and shouldn't be punished for it. I told him that I didn't have that kind of money to just give him. He left the house after arguing a bit more. My wife and his sisters are all on my side. However, his wife and my mom have said that I'm in the wrong and I should want my grandbaby to have a place to live and should not punish him for mistakes he did as a young boy. Edit. When each kid got access to the rent money, it was in a savings account. However, before it was put in a fund, so the money grew. Explained it really bad, sorry. Edit. Many people have asked about this, so I'll add it here. He did go to college. I was at his graduation, and he uses his degree today. What the 4 of them chose to do with their college fund was up to them. But from my understanding, they all used it for college. If they didn't, then they didn't. I've never asked any of them for proof of what the money was used for, so that's why I can't say with 100% certainty that it did go towards their education. From what I understand, you never gave the other kids money. You just kind of held on to their own money and gave it back to them. Young man should have taken your offer. And our second story. Can't follow the rules at the dog park? I might not be able to fix it, but I can make it expensive. I regularly visit my local dog park with 2 of my dogs. We have a great neighborhood relationship with several of the regulars, and it really is a highlight of my day to go to the dog park. I always make a joke that I'm going to just stop bringing the dogs at some point because I think I get more out of it than they do. My local dog park's easy and convenient for me to use, and it's even more convenient because my brother lives in the house that's next to the dog park, with his grass side yard being directly on the other side of the dog park parking lot. The dog park regularly runs out of parking spots, and there are clear signs on the edge of my brother's yard that say no parking on grass, vehicles will be towed at owner's expense. Well, due to this little familial perk, I've taken to just parking on his grass because my brother said I'm more than welcome to, and it keeps a spot open for others who may need it. This will be important later. So about 2 months ago, somebody new decided to begin using the dog park with their 2 Chihuahuas, and they immediately broke 2 rules. First, they didn't leash in the area that is leashes only. Second, they brought their Chihuahuas into the big dog area. I politely told this lady that she needed to take her Chihuahuas out because they were snapping at several dogs, including my hound dog, who's not real smart, so my hound dog wasn't getting the message, and the Chihuahuas were getting really aggressive to the point that one of them tried to bite my dog. She responded by telling me to F off. I laughed and went over to my brother's house and made sure my dog was okay. He was. This continued for several weeks. Her dogs in the big dog area without leashes from the car to the gated area. But I was a little upset that even after calling the county, no one was holding this woman accountable to the rules. Finally, I decided to just change my schedule. So I staggered my time of going to the dog park, and I started getting there so I could leave when Chihuahua lady arrived. She came at the same time every day. I did too. It isn't uncommon for people to have specific dog park times, and I was able to avoid most interaction. That is, except for the one I was looking forward to. So one morning I had the boys leashed back up on the way out, and as we were walking to my car, there wasn't any parking available. I saw Chihuahua lady pulling in. She was looking for a spot, and I said to her, "I guess you can park over on that grass once I leave." She says, "I didn't think that was allowed." I said, "Oh yeah, I park there all the time. Just wait for me to pull out and take the spot." She said, "Thanks, wow, I appreciate it." So I pulled out, I saw her pull right behind me, and I called my brother, who works from home, and let him know that somebody parked in his grass. I asked him to call up the tow company and have them towed and asked them to come quick. He was a little puzzled as to the reason for the urgency, and I explained the situation and who this was. Well, he calls me back 20 minutes later and says that the car is hooked up to a wrecker and that there's an angry lady screeching at the tow truck driver, telling the tow truck driver that she sees people park there all the time. At this point, my brother went outside and explained that the only car that's ever there is his brother's, and that his brother's the only one allowed to park there. And that he saw her pull in this morning when his brother left directly behind him. The lady continued to scream, and the tow truck driver said, "If you pay the unhook fee of $300 and the owner agrees to it, you can just move your car." Well, my brother's a nice guy and figured my plan had gone far enough, so he agreed. The lady had to shell out $300 right there in front of him, and the tow truck driver unhooked her and took off. She looked at my brother and said, "Your brother's an a-hole," got her dogs in her car and drove off. And even though that lady still won't change her ways, at least I got to feel a little better about the situation. No bad dogs, only bad owners. Poor Chihuahuas are in great danger, and they don't know it. One day there will be a dog that doesn't play those games and will snap at them. And our next story. And our last story. Neighbor took down the fence without asking. 2 weeks ago, I came home from work and found something missing. A big section of the fence between my driveway and my neighbor's driveway was completely gone. The fence was always there, separating our properties, and now, without any warning, it had vanished. I figured there must have been a reason, but it was still a shock. So I went over to talk to my neighbor just to ask what had happened. Right from the start, he was defensive. He told me that the fence was his and he built it before I moved in 2 years ago. He explained that he had originally put it up because the previous owners used to shovel snow onto his driveway, which is long, but now he wanted more space for his RV, so he decided to take it down. I told him that based on the survey I had from when I moved in, the fence was actually on the property line and technically shared between us. I said I would have appreciated a heads up before he just ripped it out. He immediately denied the fence was shared and told me to get a new survey to prove it. I told him I already had one, and it clearly showed the fence on the property line. After some back and forth, he reluctantly agreed to put the fence back up, but only if I paid him for half of the materials he originally bought to build it. I was annoyed but agreed, just to keep things civil. He said he'd let me know how much, but it's been 2 weeks and there's been radio silence since. No sign of him rebuilding the fence, and now his RV is parked right on the property line where the fence used to stand. I've been patient, but I have a sinking feeling he's talked to his wife and decided he doesn't have to put the fence back up. I really like the fence. Besides giving me some privacy, it also helped me shovel snow without it spilling onto his driveway. Now I have no barrier, and all I get to look at is his ugly RV parked front and center in his driveway. I contacted the city hoping they could help, but they suggested I have a conversation with them, which I already tried. I've also contacted bylaw enforcement and even spoke to a lawyer just to be prepared for the worst. At this point, I'm thinking about building my own fence along the property line. If he doesn't want to respect our agreement, I'll make sure I have my privacy back. Update. After giving my neighbor ample time to do the right thing, I decided to move forward with building my own fence. I called in a contractor and gave them the green light to construct a brand new fence directly on the property line. I used my survey report to ensure everything was legally sound. As soon as the crew started digging, my neighbor came storming over, furious that I hadn't waited longer. I calmly reminded him of our agreement, how he promised to rebuild the fence and hadn't followed through. He yelled that it wasn't necessary and that his RV needed the space. That's when I politely but firmly explained that I wasn't going to wait forever and, legally, the property line was shared. If he didn't want to rebuild the fence, I had every right to do it myself. Now I have my fence back. I've also blocked his ugly RV from view. As for my neighbor, he hasn't said much since, but he knows where the property line is now, that's for sure. And our last story. HOA sending me bills with thousands in late fees and fines, even though I never joined one? Before we closed on our house in 2019, we were assured by our realtor, the seller, and her realtor that there was not a HOA in our subdivision. I've got a project car, we have some exotic pets, etc., and would prefer not to have people say what we can or can't do at our house. At the beginning of the year, we started getting notices in the mail from an HOA with late fees and fines going back to when we purchased the house. I asked a couple of my neighbors, and there is indeed a HOA for this neighborhood, and it's kind of a crapshoot on who actually pays dues. Some do, some don't. I reviewed the deed to my house and all the documents signed during closing, and none of them mentioned a HOA, and we've never been sent any documents to sign or bylaws or anything like that. The HOA is demanding a lot of money. I called them and offered to pay this year's dues if we could be given bylaws and documents to sign. They say we have to pay all of it, and it's a solid chunk of change, would wipe out nearly all my savings. We still haven't received any documentation or bylaws. I think I can tell them to go pound sand. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.